Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for.
Hey, I'm back. Good to be back. So, want to go ahead and get to some late breaking news. Before we do, by the way, if it looks a little bit different behind me, sounds a little bit different, please forgive me. Family is on vacation. You know, it's funny. I thought it was the last little trip we would get away. What could possibly happen here in mid to late June that was worth discussing? Didn't bring the normal mic, didn't bring the normal lighting. Actually asked the wife, she said, Aaron, you'll be fine. What could possibly happen? So I bring it up just because this may look a little bit different. It may sound a little bit different, but there is late breaking news that I do want to get to. That late breaking news, basketball recruiting news. And this to me is very important, as just moments ago, Malachi Moreno, one of the top high school players in America, just made his college announcement. 7-foot center from the state of Kentucky. You know, listen, depending on which recruiting service, high 4-star, low 5-star, but everybody has him as a top 20 to 25 player. I actually think he's a little bit higher, neither here nor there. But just moments ago, in a recruitment that Kentucky kind of sort of had to have, local kid plays kind of in the way that Mark Pope wants his fives to play. Well, guess what? Malachi Moreno officially announced that he is a Kentucky Wildcat, first major commitment of the Mark Pope 2025 class, but also kind of worth noting, highest rated recruit that Mark Pope has ever gotten, and I think a crucial get for Mark Pope and the Wildcats. So Malachi Moreno is a Kentucky Wildcat. Let's go ahead and break it down. By the way, as you can see right there, if you're not following our Torres on UK Twitter account, make sure to do so. But let's get into this decision. Let's get into this recruitment. A couple things stand out. One, we're going to get into the player, the fit, everything momentarily. And also, by the way, like who could potentially be next for Kentucky. But before we do, it's important to note, one, I don't think this recruitment and this decision was really all that surprising. Now, Moreno really was a national prospect, could have gone a lot of places. But over the last couple of weeks, it felt like it was trending towards a Kentucky-Indiana border war recruitment. And certainly over the last couple of weeks, Kentucky has gotten the upper hand. I think this was important from the Mark Pope perspective, and I give him credit because he established a relationship with this kid quickly, thought it was important. In late June, he had Malachi Moreno on campus at the same time as Jasper Johnson, the 5-star, who is also from the state of Kentucky. So established that relationship early. I remember even after the kid visited, he kind of cut a list right after that. And so you kind of knew it was a good sign. Okay, he comes out of the visit to Lexington and he already is ready to start eliminating schools. But I also think that, to actually get this done is big because of the fact that, one, it gets done. Two, not surprising, like I said. I also think it's kind of worth noting, I think this is interesting. Another thing that made me feel pretty good about this recruitment in recent days, Malachi Moreno is one of those national prospects that could go to one of the national prep schools. I know IMG was interested, but for people who I think everybody would know, but obviously these elite high school players now, they're not just recruited over the summer by colleges, but also by high schools. And so this is a time where a lot of the best players are switching high schools, going to some of the national prep schools. Thought it was interesting and thought it was a great sign for Kentucky that this kid decided, I'm not going to go to the prep school route. I'm going to stay in the state of Kentucky. I'm going to stay home and I'm going to play for my local high school. So that was another great sign for Kentucky. He decides to stay local. He wants to do it locally with his high school teammates. I love that approach, by the way. If you remember, by the way, to this most recent NBA draft, that's kind of the Reed Sheppard approach, right? Reed Sheppard, local high school superstar in the state of Kentucky, could have gone the prep school route, stays home, has success with his local high school teammates, and by the way, didn't hinder him from being a high draft pick. Worth noting, Donovan Clingan, UConn, the same story. From the state of Connecticut, stayed at Bristol Central High School, his local high school, wins a bunch of state titles with his buddies, goes to UConn, has success there as well. So I love the fact that Malachi Moreno decided to stay home. But beyond that, thought it was a great sign for Kentucky And more importantly, I think this recruitment is a huge, big win for Mark Pope. Now, listen, you guys know my history with the Mark Pope hire. I knew that everything that Kentucky fans are seeing now would come out once they got to know Mark Pope. Yes, I was critical in the moment. I thought that Mitch Barnhart probably owed it to the fan base to at least wait and see if Billy Donovan would take a phone call. But at the same time, once it became Mark Pope, I said, look, everybody give this guy time. You're going to love him. His energy, his enthusiasm, his smile, it's contagious. But this was an important recruiting win for him. First off, I think it's important from the perspective you're keeping the best players local. This is something that he promised in his opening press conference. He said, I was part of the 96 national championship team, and I know the backbone that is needed from players in the state of Kentucky. Made it a priority. In short order in 2024, got Travis Perry to stay, got Trent Noah, obviously, to commit after he decommitted from South Carolina. But this 2025 class is loaded. And so to keep Malachi Moreno at home, that is huge for Mark Pope. But it's also huge in the bigger picture because Malachi Moreno isn't just a good player on the local level. He's one of the best centers in all of high school basketball. And so for anybody, and I never, by the way, to be clear, I never bought the narrative that because he didn't, flip a bunch of kids the moment that he got to campus, that he wasn't going to be able to recruit at the highest levels at the University of Kentucky. But there was that narrative out there, right? You bring in mostly a bunch of older college transfer players for your 2024-2025 roster for the season. But everybody kind of had their eye out in this 2025 recruiting class. How was Mark Pope going to do? Now, I think really 2026, when you have a year to build relationships, is going to be the class that we kind of judge him on. But 2025, you had to get some dudes. You had to prove on a national scale that you could recruit at the highest level. And he has certainly done that with Malachi Moreno with this commitment. And so I think this was important for Mark Pope to prove. We can go head to head with the big dogs. We can go head to head with the Indianas, with the Kansases, with the North Carolinas. Remember, Malachi Moreno had offers from all of those schools. Well, Mark Pope basically said, you know what? Carolina, you can come take a visit. You can come check us out, but you ain't leaving my state with my kids. Same with you, Bill Self. Same with whoever else. And Mark Pope gets a very important recruit just, again, because I think it proves that he can recruit at the highest levels nationally, keep those best players local home. But now he's got to obviously go out and do it on a national level as well. Now, in terms of Moreno, a couple quick last thoughts before we get out of here. Again, a little bit of a pseudo-scattered vacation reaction. Forgive me. I apologize. But to kind of get into this recruitment further, a couple other things stand out. Again, not surprising it's Kentucky. Big win because he's a local kid, but big kid because he's a national recruit for Mark Pope. I also think a couple other things. One, it's big not just because he's a five-star prospect. And listen, I love John Calipari, okay? But the previous coach, at times, it felt like he was only taking you because you were a five-star, whether you really fit, whether you really didn't, whatever. Well, Mark Pope, this is kind of the exact opposite. Not only is Malachi Moreno a five-star type talent, not only is he a guy that I believe will play in the NBA, and if he develops correctly, will play in the NBA for a long time, but he's a player that kind of fits how Mark Pope wants to play perfectly. I think I said it earlier, but every time I watch Malachi Moreno, I am so impressed. This is a kid that he's 7'1", but he's not playing basketball because he was born into a 7-foot body. He clearly has a passion for it. He's clearly getting better at it. He's clearly improved over the course of his high school career. And when I saw him on the circuit this summer, what I saw was one of the most complete centers in all of high school basketball. This is a kid that is athletic, can run the floor. I love his footwork around the rim. I love his touch around the rim. He's not just, grab the ball and dunk it. He's not, can't put the ball on the floor. Can handle a little bit for a guy his size. Now, you don't want him taking it. You get the point. Can handle a little bit for his size, can shoot a little bit for his size, nice little mid-range jumper. And that's the kind of guy that thrives in the Mark Pope system. At the 5 spot, it isn't just dump the ball down low, and run your offense through a guy like it's 1984, right? Your 5-man, even as a 5-man, has to be able to pass, dribble, shoot, Malachi Moreno can do all of that. And so you look at that skill set, you look at that system, and I'm not saying it's going to be perfect in day one, week one of the 25-26 season, but this is a guy that, like I said, I believe he's an NBA prospect. It may be a one and done situation. It may be beyond, but he's a guy that I think will thrive and grow in that Mark Pope system. And bluntly, he's going to have to, because Mark Pope still has a lot of work to do on the recruiting trail. And I think this is where it starts to get interesting, right? Because we know what the 2024-25 roster looks like. But as we start looking ahead to the team and the program that Malachi Moreno will come into, there's a lot of holes that Mark Pope has to fill. Now, that may have sounded a little strange. Whatever, you get the point, though. You get what I'm trying to say here. Okay, forgive me. But I bring it up because there is a lot of spots that are going to be available going into next year. Now, again, I don't blame Mark Pope because you didn't sign he took over in mid-April and had no players and had to put together a roster. And so he did it largely through the portal. But what's interesting about this coming roster, he's going to have to replace virtually all of it at this time next year. I checked this before just to make sure this is accurate. I believe this is correct. Of their, what do they have? 12 scholarship players. 7 of them are 5th or 6th year seniors. So basically guys that are going to run out of eligibility after this season. Don't have to go through all of them, but Lamont Butler, Kobe Brea, Jackson Robinson, Andrew Carr, Amari Williams. I'm missing a guy or two, Kirk Risa. But you have 7 guys that even if it works with everybody else, even if you retain everybody else, all the freshmen, all the younger transfers, you're still going to have to replace a minimum of 7 bodies next season. And so what becomes interesting, you got that first bedrock piece for the class of 2025, and now I'm fascinated to see who could be next. We all know the names that Mark Pope in Kentucky are after. Jasper Johnson, I'll be blunt, I did an update a few weeks ago. I don't really know where Kentucky stands with him. I still think some of those other schools that had a longer time to build a relationship, Alabama, North Carolina specifically, are probably in a little bit of a better spot with him. But I don't think it's completely off the table. I mean, you have an elite recruiting staff with Jason Hart, with Alvin Brooks. And so I don't think it's done with Jasper Johnson. But I do think if I had to handicap right now, I think they're probably still a little bit behind those other 2 schools. And obviously there's NIL stuff going on that, we know how the NIL game works in 2024, 2025. So I bring it up because I don't know if it's Jasper Johnson who's next, and we'll certainly react as he makes his decision. I don't know if it's Braylon Mullins. But what I do believe is you have a young, energetic, really bright guy in Mark Pope. You have a great staff around him, and Kentucky has a great brand to sell. So I can't sit here and lie and say that I know who's going to be next and that you're going to put together the number 1 class in the country. But I'll be honest, I talk to Kentucky fans every day because of this show, and I always appreciate your support. And I'll note, I don't think most of you expect or want or care if you get the number 1 class in the country. You just want a program that's built and sustainable over many years. And so you're going to have a nice balance of returnees next year. I think you're going to put together a heck of a 2025 recruiting class. And obviously we'll see who hits the portal in next April. But appreciate everybody's support. Listen, just a huge, huge, huge day for Mark Pope. A huge moment for Kentucky. He reels in his biggest recruit to date. He reels in his most important recruit to date, Malachi Moreno, 2025 5-star center, is officially a Kentucky Wildcat. By the way, don't forget, you can always get your Hope and Pope t-shirts at AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise, AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. But again, appreciate everybody's support.